What delight, whooping and cheering and howling for Mr. Rob Hughes!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
My name is Rob Hughes, that's Hughes, H-U-G-H-E-S. It's a fairly typical bog standard Welsh name, isn't it? You'd be amazed how many ways there are to fuck it up. I was in a taxi home from the pub one time. I said to the guy on the phone, what's the name? The guy on the phone said, what's the name? I said Hughes because I didn't see any point in lying about it. He said Shoes. I said no, Hughes. He said Huge. I said no, Hughes. H-U-G-H-E-S. 20 minutes later the taxi arrived, the driver wound down the window and called out, "Taxi for Shrewd!" Fucking Shrewd. Who's called Mr. Shrewd, for God's sake? Sounds like a failed Mr. Man, doesn't it? Hello, my name is Mr. Shrewd, and these are my associates, Mr. Suave and Mr. Sophisticated. Now, you're probably more familiar with our juvenile counterparts, but let me assure you, we're not cut from the same cloth as Tickle and that lot, with their ridiculous hats and their one-dimensional personalities. Oh no, we're a far superior breed, although we don't get our own books. Apparently, children aren't interested in reading about old Shrewd and his pragmatic business decisions. No, they'd rather read about some fucking imbecile who can't put his shoes on the right feet. Fucking muddle! I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. I've been spending rather a lot of time with Mr. Resentful. Mr. Shrewd. I wouldn't mind, but Hughes is such an ordinary name, isn't it? And I'm glad about that because I think people with unusual names get picked on, don't they? If you don't believe me, ask my mate Peter Brett. You can laugh, but he was always getting filled in at school. To be fair though, he wasn't teased only for his name, but also because he lived with his nan. And then there's my mate Bob Swain. He got tormented something rotten. Didn't take it well. Got depressed. Went downhill very fast. You've got to be careful who you tease, ladies and gentlemen. Not everybody likes it. Take my mate Gymnast. I teased him once, and he flipped. It's nice to hear you laughing, ladies and gentlemen. I need that reassurance. We're quite a nervous performer. I don't know how much that comes across, but I do feel nervous standing here. I wouldn't say that I'm shitting myself, because I think that's a bit vulgar, but I have to confess I am emitting three-dimensional farts. I think my nervousness stems from having a lack of confidence and very low self-esteem. I've got such low self-esteem, in fact, that my idea of fantasizing during sex is to close my eyes and pretend that I'm someone else. My lack of confidence was compounded recently when I was a victim of identity theft, and the thieves gave it back. And it doesn't help that I'm not a successful man. I know I'm not. This was made painfully clear to me recently when I was attended a swingers party, ladies and gentlemen. A swingers party. Everybody in the room had to put their car keys into a bowl. My bus pass stood out like a sore thumb. But despite all of this, I managed to persuade a woman to marry me, believe it or not. I went my wife speed dating, of all places. I remember the night very well. She sat opposite me, a perfect stranger. She said, "Pick 5 words to describe yourself." I said, "I'm inarticulate." Our relationship was difficult at first. I was new to dating. I didn't know what to do. I learned very quickly that you never substitute the words "lovely outfit" with the words "interesting costume." Not the same thing at all. Our first date, I took her to the beach for ice cream at the seaside. I thought it was romantic. I said, "You stay there, I'll get them. What flavour do you want?" She looked at me, coquettish. She said, "Surprise me." So I didn't get her one. She did look surprised and a little annoyed, if I'm honest. But our marriage is waning. It is waning. I tried to liven things up. We went to a wife-swapping party. Wife-swapping party. I made a bit of a faux pas. Didn't realise it was just for the one night. I looked like a bloody fool turning up with all those suitcases. Next month we're going to a nudist convention. I'm not sure what day it's on, but we're definitely going to go if we've got nothing on. It's been a difficult year for my wife and I. Her father died this year, but she's not here, so we can laugh about it. It was especially difficult for me because his funeral fell on the day of the Six Nations rugby final. Selfish bastard. Now, I love rugby. My wife knows this. She said, "Look, I know that you love rugby, but this is my father's funeral I'm talking about. why don't we compromise, meet me in the middle? How about we record it and we can watch it together in the night? I said, all right. It's a bit morbid though, isn't it? And do you really want to carry a camera around with you all day? You know, I went to the funeral, of course I did, and when I got there, I saw her mother. She was just head to toe in black, wearing a veil, bawling her eyes out. I looked at her, I said, morning. As soon as I had said it, I realised how inappropriate it was. It had gone 12 o'clock, I'd missed my window for the morning joke, which is why in hindsight I think she didn't laugh. I tried to console her, I said, look, at least he had a good innings. She said, a good innings? What are you talking about? He was 51. I said, yes, well, I'm shit at cricket. It sounds like I'm being disrespectful, doesn't it? But I'm not. I get on very well with my mother-in-law. She's a fantastic woman, although she was a lot posher than I am. I learned this when I was having dinner in her house one day, and I farted at the dinner table. I say I farted, it was more like a controlled explosion. But she was horrified. She looked at me, she said, Robert, in this house, if a person wishes to break wind, it is expected that they leave the room in order to do so. Leave the room to fart? There are members of my family that wouldn't leave the room to shit. So on the subject of family, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about my son. He's, to put it bluntly, he's a maniac. This isn't a joke, this is just a story, there's no punchline. It's an example of the kind of insane lunacy I have to put up with from this child on a daily basis. The other day he came running into the lounge, stark bollock naked. I had dressed him 20 minutes earlier, but he thought, fuck it, I'm having a nude day. He came running in, he stood right in front of me, started stretching his genitals, staring at me like this, looking at me square in the eye. He rested his gaze upon me and he said, do you want to go to Legoland? How do you say no to that? I couldn't say no to that. He wasn't trying to frighten me. He wasn't trying to threaten me. I was very, very intimidated. I dread the day he wants to go to Disney World. Ladies and gentlemen, give me a cheer if you don't like your jobs. Hey! Yep, me too. I pitched an idea to my boss at work recently, and I was surprised by how well it went. It was for a thing called, what I call Fuck Off Fridays. It's very similar to the principle of Dress Down Fridays, but rather than paying £1 for the privilege of wearing your own clothes to work, you pay £1 for the privilege of being able to tell anybody who tries to engage you in a non-work related conversation to fuck off. Do you like it? Yeah. For example, if Alan from accounts was to approach me and say, hey Rob, like he does, he's a twat. Hey Rob, we're all thinking of going for some drinky poos after work. Would you like to join us? I would look at him and I would say, fuck off. If Steve, the security guard, was to approach me and say, hey Rob, I'm thinking about starting a Saturday League 5-a-side football team. Do you want a piece of the action? He's a twat. So look at him and say, fuck off. Or if Ian from the IT department was to approach me and he'd say, hey Rob, do you want to come and see the new X-Men movie after work? I could say to him, fuck off. No, I wouldn't. I'd say it's a fantastic idea. What time does the film start? Ian and I go back a long way and I love the X-Men films. Doesn't do to make assumptions, ladies and gentlemen. But my boss, I thought she wouldn't like it. I thought she might think it's a little bit hostile. But she didn't. She loved it. As soon as I pitched it to her, she told me to fuck off. And it was only Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all from me. You've been fantastic. Have a lovely good night.
Rob Hughes, ladies and gentlemen.